We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. I am back in Minnesota. I don't have the fake backdrop anymore. We're getting back to normal here. And first thing, when I get back to Minnesota, our guest is, it's Thursday, so it's Old Soul. Old Soul is with us today. And, she's got that smiling face, and people always remark how she's sweet and compassionate. But this girl's fired up today. She's not a happy camper. And she says, I got to calm down before I go on a show. I go, no, no, no. Stay fired up. We need some liveliness out of you. If you're pissed off, let's express that. I think people want to see it. So, Old Soul, thanks for being on the program.
Hey, yeah, I am taking my deep breaths and I think I will be okay. Just, yeah.
Just let it out, man. This consider this kind of a, uh, psychological oasis for you. You can just let it out. I know in normal circumstances at work or with your family, you try to keep it together like Old Soul does, but you don't
Yeah,
have to do that here. I don't do it. Why the fuck would you?
that's true. That's true. All right.
So what's
I can
pissing you
articulate
off the
what
most?
I'm feeling. I can articulate what I'm feeling. It's just I just watched the interview with Kamala Harris, and then earlier today I saw two town halls with Trump. So I think that I have had about as much of MAGA as I can take for one day.
Well, we'll
It's,
we'll talk about that in a moment. Whenever you come on, we talk about what you're currently dealing with because you're so ensconced in the whole reproductive healthcare rights, Roe v. Wade, and all that sort of thing. And that's playing a huge role in this election coming up in less than 3 weeks. Um, Old Soul oftentimes brings young women, sometimes girls, in that can't get the health care they need in the states they live in, and they can in Nevada, where she is. And she allows them to stay there, and she ends up being a house mother and adopting them, and her family keeps getting fucking bigger every day. But what's going on with you right now?
Yeah, I actually have two girls right now. They asked me
Oh,
if I could take two, and I said yeah. They're teenagers. One is 15, one is 16. There's nothing like drama written about it. This is none of this is normal for them. These girls to be missing school and to be here with me is not a normal situation. But for what I do, it's just fairly normal situation. But I did do earlier is I took them to my OB, and some of the girls when they come here, they kind of give a crash course in STDs and the importance of protecting yourself. And
right.
so they got a little course today as well. But yeah. The one, though, she was being responsible and she was talking to her mother about being sexually active with her boyfriend. And her mother was like, okay, we need to go to the doctor, get you on birth control, that type of thing. But the thing is, in her state, her OB appointment was like 5.5 months out. So in the
Wow.
meantime, her boyfriend, this is a typical teenage guy thing to do. He just said, oh, it's okay. I can just pull out. His pullout game wasn't that good. And
Yeah,
so,
apparently not.
yeah, that's what ended up happening to her. But my daughter is taking them on Friday so that they can get, birth control that they need. Because going back home is not really going to help if she still can't get an OB appointment. So on Friday, they're going to go, they're going to get their birth control and their prescriptions and all that stuff. And then they're going to go back home.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're not going through any trauma, drama, or turmoil like so often is the case.
Yeah.
Um,
The
th- th-
last girl the last woman that was here, she left with her mother, and I thought that she would. Her husband said some things that I thought was troubling, so I'm glad that she left with her mother, and I don't know what the outcome of that is going to be. But he, when he called me and he was asked, I said, "Oh, she left with her mother. Like we just dropped them off at the airport," and he was like, "Oh, I knew I shouldn't have let her come." I'm like, "What do you mean you let her come?" But
yeah.
that was troubling to me. He seemed a little agitated once her mother got here, but she, made that decision on her own. I guess I don't know what to tell you, sir. But so whatever's going to happen on that end is going to happen on that end. So
Yeah, you can only do what you can do. You can do the best you can, and you do more than most people. So you got to move on to the next thing, and you've got these two girls now, and hopefully everything works out fine there. And
yeah,
this isn't a real opportune time for these girls coming in because you're kind of all in on this election thing through November 5th. I mean, I think you even set your your significant other straight about you're just going to have to let me do this till November 5th because I'm going to be busy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I got to do. I don't. There's no way that I'm just not gonna like at the end of this election, I want to be able to say I did everything that I could. I got as many people involved and I could. I got as many people active as I could. Um, and that's what I got to do. And then after that, I can go back to being normal. I do miss though the work that I did before this because it does take away from what I'm used to doing. But I think you have to prioritize what your purpose is sometime. And right now, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
When you say the work you did before, what are you talking about?
Yeah, with the battered women, when they would have
Oh,
to wait for this room in the shelter, they would come here. Helping Hands of Southern Nevada, where I get to go and help my seniors with their grocery shopping, get their medications, look out for them, maybe straighten up a little bit. I just don't have time to do that. And like those type of programs, it's hard to let go and you feel like you're walking away from them. But life will be so much harder for them if I don't do what I'm doing right now. So that's how I make it make sense in my head. But
well, what would be nice if Kamala gets elected, we get the majority in the House and the Senate, we codify Roe v. Wade, and that takes one job off the table for you right there. They won't
yeah,
need your services for women in states that are where it's illegal for abortion. So I know you're working hard on this. You know, a lot of people say, I'm thinking about it, I'm praying about it, I'm talking about it, I'm doing this. But you're traveling around the fucking country. You're knocking on doors. You're going to rallies, and you're really fully invested into this. It's admirable because most people either won't or can't do that. So that you have both going for you is pretty amazing.
well, thank you. I think that what rubs off on me is having like an older family and being around them and just knowing the history of what we went through as women, as minorities, to have our rights and then just to watch them systematically try to take that away. It's not something that you could just lay down and let them do that. Absolutely, we worked way too hard to get where we're at and be able to do the things that we can do. And then you're just going to take that away from us? I don't think so.
Ah,
So we
hell
do,
no.
that's just not going to happen.
We're gonna fuck some people up if this keeps up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not going to just sit back and let them do that. And then at the same time, we have to acknowledge what we're up against. So I think we all have to stand together and make sure that we don't allow them to pass this horrible agenda that they're trying to pass. So that's where it comes from, just being around old people and knowing what they went through firsthand accounts from them. So yeah,
I
just
know
like
what I know when old souls fired up because frequently wherever I am, I will get a text message that says, "Oh my God, Boomer, did you see this?" And she'll send me a link and she'll go off and clearly upset about it. One of the things you were upset about today was the interview that Kamala did on Fox News with Brett Baer. Now, originally, I thought this might be fairly normal because of all the Fox clowns. He's probably the closest to normal, but it really didn't go off that way, did it?
no, no, it didn't. The reason that it didn't go the way that you predicted. So I think that your prediction was right. But what made him change and switch course was he did a little like blurb, like, hey, I got this interview with Kamala Harris. I think it was like an online website or something where you could go and you could put questions that you want him to ask. Why he opened that up to MAGA and the Fox News audience, I have no idea. But on top of that, you have Trump online, if you read his post talking about this is going to be a softball interview and all of this other crap, Republicans I don't want to say all of them, but a majority of them, especially those ones on Fox, because they're all MAGA. No matter if they're on a MAGA scale from 1 to 10, they're still MAGA. And what he doesn't want to do is upset Trump and get some more mean tweets about Trump. All these people are like going after him. This better not be a softball interview and all of this other kind of crap. And he gave in to that pressure. And so he came in for an audience of one. It was
Right.
just Trump, and that's it. He wanted to make sure that Trump didn't say that this was a softball interview. What he doesn't understand is no matter what he does, if Kamala Harris comes out looking like she's competent, like she has sense, and like she has a purpose for this country that's not grievance and full of all of this other crap, he's going to get mad regardless. Because there was one person on that stage with him on the debate, and that was Kamala Harris. And he
Right.
still found a way to blame the moderators, blame this, blame that, chips in her ear, and all of this other crap. There's absolutely nothing Brett could have done to appease Donald Trump. That wasn't going to happen. What he should have did was be a journalist, ask those questions, have a decent conversation, and save his reputation. But he sold out to Donald Trump just like the rest of those fools do. And that's why he came at her like that. It was so disrespectful. He didn't want her to talk. He didn't want her to get her points out because he doesn't want to upset the orange Mussolini over there.
Yeah.
It's irritating how they bow down to him, how cowardice that they are towards this man. It is irking. It is so irking. The world does not revolve around Trump. The
Now,
sun doesn't rise and fall based on his time schedule.
now the
They
thing
would just
is,
sell the
if we
country out
listen,
to make it look good.
yeah,
They forgot.
if we listen to what you're saying, you make it sound like it went bad for Kamala. And I haven't seen the whole interview, but I saw a number of clips, and I don't think it went bad for Kamala at all. I mean, she knew that she was probably going to deal with somebody who's contrary to her that might pull these tricks. And I think Kamala came off very strong. I mean, there was one point where Kamala suggested that Donald Trump said the enemy is from within, and Brett
Mm-hmm.
Baer is trying to twist that. And so he plays a video where he says, well, I'm not the one that's dangerous. They're the ones that's dangerous. What he failed to play is the first part of that clip where he says, Donald Trump doubles down and says, I do find the enemy coming from within. It's like Adam Schiff and these generals and this side of stuff. So he did say it. So they conveniently edited it so it wasn't there. Problem was, Kamala saw that interview and she called his ass out on it and embarrassed him right on the stage there. That was a good shot for Kamala. She did a hell of a job and she was strong, and you could see she was on the edge of getting angry, but she was
Yeah,
just stern because she is everything. One thing she said she's disciplined. She
yeah.
held the emotions intact and she in check and just kind of attacked in a very, very formidable way, but not losing her temper.
Yeah, she did well, and she didn't go off of the rails with it. She did very, very well. And they know she did well. But to point out what he did, because Kamala is not a petulant child like Donald Trump is.
No.
She's not going to go and tweet and complain and whine and be completely grieved at her next rally. That's not what she's going to do. That's what I'm here for. She
Right.
did good. She know what she had to do. And then we just need to back it up. That's it. It was just insane that that he would just do that.
Oh,
I will never understand how they debase themselves for Donald Trump at all. But it's
right.
not for me to understand. He was being manipulative. That chart that he put up on that screen, that was a Fox News poll that is not reputable. And then if you look at the chart, he's saying half of America. There was only 600 people in that chart. So you only interviewed 600 right-wing MAGA nuts. And then out of that 600, you got the nerve to say 78% of the country thinks this, that, and the third. They don't speak for us. He was being very deceptive, and he was trying to spin a narrative, and she would not allow him to do it. And then he lied at the end of the interview. He said that her team, I don't know if you saw the panel after the interview, he sat there and told the panel that her team was saying she had to go and that she was late and all of this other BS. But if you listen to the end of the interview, he said, well, I hope you were able to say everything you wanted to say about Trump. She said, oh no, I still got more to say. I have more things I want to say. And he cut the interview off.
Yeah.
And then he turns around and he lies about it.
Yeah. Well, I
He's
mean,
not saying
it
he's
is
not saying
Fox
he
News.
can risk up his sanity a little bit better than Laura Ingraham can. That's all. That's
It
all.
it is Fox News, so the fact that they lied should not be surprising to any of us. One of the things that I think Kamala benefited from in this interview, um, of course, the base is going to think this is a win or that's a win. But what they proved on that Fox News to those people who don't listen to Fox that watch because Kamala was there, they
Yeah.
proved exactly what we've been talking about, that this is a war against women, white men against all women. And in that interview, he spent a lot of time interrupting, talking over her, and mansplaining to her. Now, I've been married for 41 years. You can do a lot of shit, but do not do that. And when the women see this, Brett Baer is the one that's going to look bad. Fox News is going to look bad. And it's just going to amplify the whole argument that we have that these people want to diminish or marginalize women. That's what they want to do.
Yeah, that's what he thought that he was going to be able to do. When they don't understand that with women, only thing that Donald Trump does is call her names.
Right.
She is low IQ, she is dumb, she is stupid, she is this, and she's that. And then Fox News, they just sit there and they amplify that message. And then you turn around and you put Brett Barr up there, and then he just attack, 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 attack. And he is like not wanting her to talk. He's trying to be a bully. If you're trying to win over a woman's vote, do you really think it's a good idea to sit there and attack her like that? Do you really think it's a good idea to go on stage in front of thousands of people and call her low IQ? And the reason that your IQ is good is because your uncle from generations ago had half a brain in his head.
Right.
It's just insane to me that they think that we don't understand that. They think that women don't get it. And then you sit there and you try to tell us what's important. You sit there and Donald Trump says stuff all the time. Well, it's not that big of a deal. Women are happy with this. Everybody is satisfied. Everybody wanted it overturned. If you sit there and you look at us in our face and you can hold a straight face and still tell us BS, it's still BS. It doesn't matter how you put it on a plate. We know what that is.
Right.
So it's really insulting for them to think that they could just mansplain how we feel and what we do with our bodies. They think they can convince us of what's good for us. That's not
Right.
going to happen. I know what's good for me. Trump does not know what's good for me. Brett Baer does not know what's good for me. Jesse Waters, that prick, he damn sure don't know what's good for me. But they want to sit there and try to tell you this is what's best for you. It's best to be in the state's hands. That's a load of crap. And it's insulting that they try to tell us that. It's insulting when they try to tell us that we want to kill babies after birth. That's insulting for them to try to tell us that. And time after time, when we vote, we show them that's a lie. We don't believe that. We don't like that when you say it. And they still try to shove it down our throats. And that's what he was trying to do tonight. It just pissed us off all over again. The closer we get to the election, the more they want to piss us off. That's not a winning strategy. It's not going to work. I'm irritated with Brett Baker right now because he was a coward. He couldn't do his job. He had to cow down to Trump.
Just a side note to those folks listening. See, I told you she was fired up. Give me 2 minutes and I'll piss off any woman in this country. I can get them fired up and angry and spit and fire. But I understand. I wasn't as angry about the interview because I didn't think it went badly at all. I think it went well. And I think Kamala did exactly what she had to do. I think Brett Baer did a shitty job doing the interview, but we shouldn't be surprised about that. Now, in addition to that, you said you watched two town halls that Donald Trump was in. The first one the only one I know about, you can tell us about the other, was they put him in a room with women. They're trying to make him softer to be appealing to more women. But what they did is, they put Kamala on the chopping block hoping to do something there, but they put Donald Trump in a situation where the whole audience were these creepy, crazy fucking Trump fuck women. And in this town hall, he admits that he overturned Roe v. Wade. He takes pride in it. And then he said one other thing that I know really tease you off. So I'm going to say it again because I'm good at pissing off women. He said, "I'm the father of IVF." Now I know you're all fired up about this, but I was telling you before we did the show, I think this was just a simple misunderstanding. He thought they were saying IBS. irritable bowel syndrome. And he was right about that. He's not only the father, he is the king of IBS. And I'll tell you what, to prove it, he was probably shitting his pants at the very moment he was saying he's the father of IBS.
I don't understand. He sat there and said that he didn't know what it was. Christy Nome had to explain it to him. And he understood the whole concept and all of the intricacies within 2 minutes because he is that smart. That's a lie. But to sit there and say you are the father of IVF, it's like, that's insane. And then a woman asked him about the government having control over her body. He turns around and he doesn't take credit for overturning Roe v. Wade. He brags about it.
Yeah.
Like that's a good thing. This woman is asking you, why does the government have the right to do this? And she MAGA, so she's dressing it up. And I think maybe he was comfortable because he knew these were maggots. And so that's why he felt that he could just say whatever, not understanding that it's millions of women who are going to see this that who are not maggots. You need to talk to those people just like you're talking to the people that's in front of you, but you don't have enough sense to do that. It was just insulting when he said it. And then his whole purpose, the only thing he could do, even in a room full of women, is try to scare the hell out of them talking about immigrants.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
How did this go into immigrants? Like immigrants is going to come into their homes and slit their throats or something. You're sitting here telling women you're not safe to walk down the street. You need a protector and all of this other crap that he tries to spin. Okay, if a woman did need a protector, it's not going to be you. You can't even sit down and have a conversation with Leslie Hall. You can't even sit here and face Kamala Harris in a debate. And you think you're going to protect me walking down the street? I don't think so. I'll take my chances with my fist, my mace, and my stun gun. But I don't need you to do any of that for me. He doesn't understand that women don't need him. We don't want him to protect us. We can make decisions for ourselves. He does not understand that at all. And the reason he doesn't understand it is he's been getting away with this crap for his whole life, assaulting women, talking trash about women, calling them names, calling them stupid to their faces. And he thinks that he can sit there and insult us, and then we're going to turn around and vote for him. On top of that, he wants to tell us what we're going to do with our bodies. Trump has lost his damn mind. That is not going to work. I'm sorry, I'm going to stop.
Hold on. I just want to give you a little technical note. We still have about 50 minutes. You may want to pace yourself. You're going to get wore down. You're going to be exhausted. We're going to have to revive you. Just, yeah, I understand your anger. And I think a lot of people are angry and frustrated. And as we get closer to the election, it's going to get worse and worse. And I'll be glad when this is over. But when Donald Trump came into that meeting with all these women, you notice what happened. They're playing some music. Everybody's cheering. Donald Trump is dancing around as he does. And that's what he needs. This is why he won't go to debates or any situation that might be negative for him. He thrives on the adulation and the people cheering for him. That crowd is getting smaller and smaller. It's being harder to find. But he needs that. That's the only way he can cosplay whatever role he's playing that particular day. But it's interesting. He won't show up to 60 Minutes. He wouldn't show up on CNBC. He won't show up on any of these places because he's worried about being fact checked, of course. And he never understands why he's being fact checked and Kamala isn't. When the answer is pretty simple. You're fucking lying and she's not. You don't have to fact check somebody who has the facts. But he thinks it should be even. He should be able to say whatever he wants, regardless of whether it's true or not, just like Kamala is. But the difference is she's telling the truth. Once again, Donald Trump is just doing what Donald Trump's doing. He's playing, he's preaching to the choir, which doesn't get him any more votes.
Yeah.
And people have said it's almost like he not even trying to win anymore. And I don't think that's the fact. I think he realizes and the people around him realize he isn't going to win. So now it's just trying to create enough positive energy and enough information and enough adulation for him to be able to say after he gets his ass kicked that, see, all these people love me. There's no way I lost the election. It's just a way to set up the excuse. Donald Trump has done this time after time, and I think that's what he's doing here. He knows he's going to lose.
One thing about Trump that he does not understand, he is one of those people that like get high off his own supply. Like he is buying his own hype.
Yep.
He doesn't look at 2016 as a fluke or a series of circumstances that, once in a million years is going to happen. He thinks that his personality and his rhetoric and all of that crap won him that 2016 election. And that's not what happened.
Yeah.
You had Russia. You had people out here planting information in the public about Hillary Clinton. On top of that, people had already demonized her in their mind. And then in addition to that, you have regular people like me who didn't think there's any way in the world that this fool was going to win this election. So they got comfortable and they sat back. He thinks that it was him that won that election, and that was not him. That was Russia's input. That was his disinformation. That was the media for failing to point out what he was doing. In addition to that, you had people just didn't like Hillary Clinton, and you had people that sat at home. People are not sitting out this election. All you got to do is look at the early voting that's going on right now. We are showing up and we are showing out because we're not going to let that happen again. He thinks that it was him, and he has been allowed to live in the land of make-believe where people just praise him, tell him how great he is, how wonderful he is, and he does believe that. In addition to that, he has never had to earn anything in his life. In 2016, it was damn near handed to him. Yeah. And he thinks that he doesn't have to work for it, that it's just going to be handed to him again. You have Kamala Harris sitting here in front of Bret Baier on Fox News with all of her accolades and all of her accomplishments. And this is a network that pushes her being a DEI hire that can't string two sentences together. And she sat there and she told him, this is running for the president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy. I have to earn every single vote. Now that's Kamala Harris, somebody who is more than qualified. Donald Trump thinks he could just sit back, demonize enemies or immigrants, and that the presidency is just going to be handed to him. The privilege of him to even think that is absurd. And the Republican Party is just comfortable with going along with it. Yeah. They're not going along with it, I don't think, because they're afraid of Donald Trump, but they know that if they tick him off, he's going to take that base and he's going to just leave with that base, and they're going to be left high and dry. They're doing absolutely everything they can to get him in. And I guarantee you, if Trump was to win this election, he would be 25th Amendment within a month at this point. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to just get in there off of his back, and then they can drop that baggage and they can enforce their agenda. That is what they're trying to appease him just to get their foot through the door. That's all they're trying to do. And he is too stupid to even understand that that's what's going on around him.
Yeah, I think that they're already understanding that Donald Trump's not going to win the presidency. I think the reason they appease him is, like you say, to keep the Trumplafucks in play to go out and vote. Because even though Donald Trump won't win, they can't afford to lose those voters in the down ballots. They need them to vote for representatives and senators and legislators and governors and stuff. And they really have no plan B. It's too late in the game. I said before that I wasn't sure that he'd be able to stand up to the strain of all the things happening to him to be the candidate in November. Well, it looks as though he will be. He's like a cockroach. Nothing can kill him. But I do sense, as of late, I was talking about this with Chase yesterday, I think, I do sense some cracks starting to break because of the crazy shit we're seeing. You no doubt saw that town hall he had where he spent 40 minutes just playing music and dancing. I mean, what the fuck is that? This guy is just getting he's an old man. He's not in the best of health. He's going around day after day doing these talks and doing these campaign rallies. I watched my granddaughter for 2 hours and I'm in bed. And I'm 14 years younger than he is. This has got to be killing him physically.
What's not, people are not talking about is that he has resorted, I know like kidnapping is not the appropriate word, but that's pretty much what he's doing.
You're talking about Coachella.
He put these people on a bus, took them there, and then just said, forget it. Because first of all, he didn't even pay the bus drivers.
No.
with somebody like me and my money, y'all on your own. I'm sorry. But in addition to that, last night when he did that, I guess you can call it a town hall. I don't know what the heck that was. But they locked the doors. He doesn't want people. Yeah, he doesn't want people leaving anymore. So I'm thinking he's just feeling like, hey, I'll just strand them here, I'll just trap them here, and they won't be able to leave. I don't know what that's about, but locking the doors is one thing, but you lock the doors in a building that doesn't have any AC in it. What the
Right.
heck is up with that? He does not care about these people. He just wants them to be at his rallies. He wants the
Not
venue to
leave.
be full, and he doesn't want them to leave. That is absolutely insane. And then I don't know if you saw it, but as soon as like people started passing out and they opened the doors, people started leaving.
Yeah. You know, Donald Trump and that story reminds me of a joke that David Lee Roth once told. I don't know if you know who David Lee Roth is, but he was the lead singer of the rock band Van Halen. And he was outrageous and he was dancing around and he was singing and he was cool and all this stuff. But he was known for telling jokes. And he'd always tell this joke. He said, he said, I'm a big rock star. I got women all over me. Like last night, I'm laying in bed and I got this groupie pounding on the door, screaming and pounding on the door. Finally, I just got up and let her out. That's how Donald Trump is. You know, he locks them away, he ties them up, forces them to idolize him and cheer him, and then he lets them go. But there are no buses to take them back 5 miles to their parking spot. This is all calculated. Donald Trump's Donald Trump thinks his biggest worry right now is that people are saying people are leaving his campaign rallies, and they are, of course. But he thinks that's the biggest issue. That's how sick this guy's mind is, how malignantly narcissistic he is. He doesn't realize he's getting his ass kicked in the campaign. He, in his mind, thinks he's winning, and he's not even close.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like he's not understanding that the people who do take the time to go to Timbuktu to his rallies, and I mean, this was in a desert in
Yeah.
Coachella.
In a state he can't win.
Yes, the temperature can change at the drop of a dime. Like the desert is nothing to play with, but
Yeah.
he's not understanding those those low crawlers that he is appealing to. He doesn't understand that that's not a majority of the population.
No.
Case in point, in Coachella, when the guy was filming that they were stranded, he was talking about the fence that they had to knock down to get out of the venue.
Wow.
You mean to tell me that like adults with bills and children and vehicles and jobs and responsibilities, could not figure out how to form a single file line and walk through the fence? Y'all
Yeah.
had to tear it down? Really? These are the people that he expects to just carry him over the finish line. And it's just like, I'm surprised that these people don't need help tying their shoes in the morning. When they
Yeah.
can't figure out to walk a line through the opening of the fence, they have to tear it down. That's what their minds is. That's the type of people that you're appealing to. And these
Yeah.
are the type of people that's going to help you take over the world, that's going to help you take this country. That's not going to happen. He
No.
doesn't know how to expand his appeal to anybody. He doesn't get that. So he thinks that this small, loud group of people is what's going to do it for him. And that's not the truth. But he is living in a bubble and he doesn't understand that he is in a bubble. That's not reality. It's going to come crashing down on him. It's going to be crazy and it's going to get crazier by the end of this, and we have to prepare for that. But I do think that when we see these outbursts in him, it's kind of like he has these glimpses of what's going on, and for a moment he is aware of what his fate is, and then he retreats back into the land of make believe as if that's going to make it any better. And the people around him, I don't want to say courageous, but they don't have enough spine to tell him the truth. So you tell Donald Trump the truth and he fire you. So what? Nobody's going to hire you anyway after you put on your resume you've been working for that clown. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
These exclusive your resume and get out right now before they all start jumping ship. It is insane that nobody is willing to tell this man the truth. I always say, put me in a room with Donald Trump. I will tell him, and I will tell him in a way where he will understand it. I could be all kind of nasty, dirty, evil women that you want me to be, but you just to hear the truth today. Not a family member, not a wife, not a son, not a close advisor, not a friend. I don't think he has friends, but nobody is willing to tell him the truth. So it's up to us to tell him the truth.
It's it's the thing about it is that for the longest time, for 2 years, he's been running for the presidency, and he's tried to delay everything, and he's been successful at much of it with the trials and the money and all this stuff. He's been able to put it off. And the way narcissists think is, if I can just delay it, I'm brilliant, so I can figure it out. I can fix it. Well, he hasn't fixed anything as yet. And now the time is imminent. We're 2.5 weeks away from the election. And after the election, there's nothing left to delay for. When he loses and loses big, there's nothing further to delay for. And this shit's going to come crashing down on him and all the people that followed him through to November 5th. They're going to have to some explaining to do. They're going to have a hard time coming back from this. Donald Trump will never come back from it, but he's 78. He'll keel over at some point. But Brett Baer, some of the people that are next to him, Jared Kushner, his sons, his daughter, everybody, they're going to have to account for the fact that they were part and parcel and standing next to what has become a pariah in this country. Donald Trump will become the butt of jokes for decades to come, just like Benedict Arnold was or has been. He's going to be a joke. He's going to be the butt of jokes. And the people around him are going to say, well, yeah, I knew that, but we need people like you and me and some of the other people I've talked to say, no, bitch, you stood with him. You carry that guilt. You were culpable in this whole thing. It's not
Yeah.
forgivable.
Yeah. And like some of the people, like the governors and the mayors, in particular in like Ohio and different areas that he's targeting, they think that they are doing something courageous. They think that they're being honest because they say, hey, there's a lot of disinformation going on out there. We
Yeah.
don't need this disinformation. They try to point people in the right direction, whatever. But what they will never say is Donald Trump is lying. Donald Trump is spreading disinformation. So what they're doing is they're half-assing it.
Yeah.
They're not going after the source of the different disinformation and who is starting this. They're not going to touch that. They're going to leave that alone. But then they want to sit here and tell people, well, this disinformation, we can't do this, we can't do that. But if you tell them where the disinformation is coming from and you point that out to them, because right now, like a lot of these people are so brainwashed, they're not connecting the dots between Trump is the one who started all of this crap. Because there's people that's not willing to call him out by name. And what gets me is about these people, they don't think that they're going to get any pushback for this. They don't have any consequences for this. Yes, you do, because you're not calling him out by name and he is sitting there ruining your community. The least that you could do is call him out by name. The least you could do is say, hey, I called him last night and I had this conversation with him about what he is doing. They won't even acknowledge that it's coming from Trump. So just to sit there and say, yeah, there's disinformation out there and act like you don't know where it's coming from, that's not enough. They're just as culpable as everybody else. They're complicit in their silence and not calling him out. They just won't call him out by name.
When I see people on television shows and they're being interviewed and the moderator says something that Donald Trump did, they will flat out either divert, distract, or just gaslight about that topic as if it's not true and if what they're saying is true. And then when they're exposed and somebody reveals some evidence that proves they're wrong, they just sit there looking dumbfounded. They just don't react. And I think it has a lot to do with Donald Trump. Donald Trump's used to getting bad press. What the most egregious crime for a Trump fan is by saying something against Donald Trump. Being in the interview and getting something exposed by the moderator, you can always say the moderators lie, it's fake news. But those people are just put in a situation. Do not say anything against Donald Trump for any reason under any circumstances. And for whatever reason, they fall in line with that. I don't know what they think they're going to, what it's going to cost them if they stand up against Donald Trump, or what they're going to gain by continuing to lie. But they aren't going to win the election. And there is going to be some accountability after it's all said and done. There's no question. I mean, if nothing else, I'm going to sit here every day. And when I hear some of these people talk about, well, I didn't really like Donald Trump, I'm going to say, wait a minute, motherfucker. Here's the facts. You did, and you deserve to answer for this. Finally, you're going to need to answer, and Donald Trump is not going to be your Lord and Savior anymore.
Yeah, I think they are trying to defend the indispensable. Like, you can't, it's indefendable. You can't defend that, what he is saying. I can't
No.
remember the one congressman's name or senator's name, but Jake Tapper, he played a clip of Donald Trump saying, the enemy from within, and talking about Adam Schiff. He read the transcript from when he said that. And he wants to sit there on national television and say, oh, well, he was talking about the migrants or the this or that. No, he is actually naming folks. Do you know an
Yeah.
immigrant by the name of Adam Schiff? Do you know an immigrant by the name of Nancy Pelosi? Then how is he talking about an immigrant? And I feel like if this is the road that you're going to take, then you need to just go ahead and just go full MAGA with it. And you can just go up there and just agree with them. But to sit here and try to dupe people and tell them what you saw, you didn't see that. What you heard, you didn't hear that. That's not what happened. You want us to conform and live in your warped sense of reality. They don't like twist themselves. They don't bend themselves. Like, they literally break in half for this man. And then Donald Trump can go out there at his rallies and say all this crap. And then he could just go to Mar-a-Lago and sit on his toilet and just tweet, talking trash and all of that crap. And now they're sitting there trying to clean up his mess. They got to go on the Sunday shows and excuse this. They got to sit here and do interviews and try to twist around what he said. Well, what he said is not what he really meant to say. He meant to say this and that. Like, nobody is catching on to that. It's just insane to me that these people, they do it on national television. If it was me personally, hey, I can't defend that. If you want me to go out there, I'll go out there, but I can't defend that.
That's the thing that's frustrating. That's the thing that's frustrating about this is that every time Donald Trump says something, his apologizers will say, well, what I think he really meant, or he's just joking. Why is it that every time Donald Trump says something, we have to fucking translate it? If we've got a president of the United States of America, he should be able to say what he means and means what he says. That's just a simple talent that he should have. But every time he says something egregious, they all say, well, you can't take that seriously. Well, he wants to be president. Everything he says better be fucking serious.
Yeah. The level of gaslighting that these people try to do, like, I'm surprised that America hasn't just like burned down. That's how much gaslighting that they're doing.
Yeah.
They will do the dumbest things. Like, if you look at January 6th, when he is sitting there, you got to fight for like hell. We got to take our country back, stop the steal, peaceful and patriotically, but you need to go down there and handle your business. Well, peaceful and patriotically, they literally would take 2 or 3 words out of a whole like hours long speech and try to make it about just those 2 or 3 little words. And then you're just supposed to forget everything else that this man said and did. They do the same thing when it comes to COVID. Yeah. Well, you know what? We're not going to count the last year of his presidency, even though we were on our way to a recession for the first 3 years after he had wrecked Obama's economy. We're just going to like not count that last year. So anytime an American president experiences some kind of like tragedy or some kind of pandemic or anything, we're just supposed to just gloss over that. We're supposed to forget the fact that millions of people died on his watch, because we don't want to make that count. We're not supposed to see the fact that he praises dictators. We're just supposed to gloss over that part of it. We're not supposed to notice that he is sitting at Mar-a-Lago running a shadow government where he could just pick up the phone and call Congress and tell them what they are and are not going to do. Think about the fit they would have if Obama was on the phone with Hakeem Jeffries calling the shots and telling him what to do.
Yeah.
What they would flip the heck out, but we're supposed to ignore it when Donald Trump does that. We're supposed to ignore the fact that his son, Don Jr., is sitting there with Viktor Orban, who is a go-between between Putin. We're supposed to act like we don't see that because Donald Trump sat on stage and said, well, I don't like to talk about my communications with Putin. I'm not going to comment on that. But if I did do it, it would be a smart thing to do. We're just supposed to ignore that. It's insane that these people play in our faces like that. And the media just does not call them out. I feel like as regular sane citizens, we are on our own when we're supposed to count on accurate reporting from the news. Anytime that this man says, I'm not going to do an interview because you're going to fact check me, he doesn't need to be on the air, period. Why would you sit there and say, yeah, you can come on our show and we will allow you to lie to the American people? Like Kamala Harris says, he literally makes up lies on a full-time basis.
Yeah.
And she said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's facts. Because that's all he does. He doesn't do anything else except for sit there and lie, make up crap, and tweet. That's all that he does. And they're supposed to make us believe that this is the best that America can do. We can do far better than Donald Trump. We shouldn't have let it happen in 2016. We are not going to let it happen in 2024, just like we didn't let it happen in 2020. These people are crazy if they think we're going to just roll over and let them do that.
Absolutely. Now, also we're gonna take a quick break. I suggest you get your daughter in there, maybe slap on some oxygen just to because we got another half to go here. Maybe get a rub down. It's gonna get it's gonna be wild and woolly again. I think in the second half too, but.
Yeah, because the second town hall had me. I'm not Hispanic, but the way that he treats these people pisses me the heck off.
Let's talk about that on the other side. So we will take a quick break and we will be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. We've got a fired up old soul with us today. She's always entertaining and interesting to listen to, but when she gets a little fire behind her, it's informative and entertaining at the same time. Now you were, as we were taking a break here, you were heading off in another direction. So I'm not, I've been married 41 years. Just go ahead, do what you were going to do.
I think I might have got some of it out there in the first half, so I'm gonna try to tone it a little bit. But I do have to say, because when I canvass in Nevada, I always tell people to watch your podcast, listen to your podcast. I think it might be working because you get some emails from Vegas.
I'm getting a lot of emails from Vegas. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, but I do have to remind them that you should have your mail-in ballots by now. I got mine. And so it's going to come with this. Open it up, it's pretty self-explanatory. And then they give you some voter registration information. On top of that, you get this election booklet as well.
Okay.
So our early registration, and then this right here will tell you where you're dropping your ballots off and all of that stuff. But our early voting starts on the 19th.
Okay.
One of the things that you could do to help canvassers like me out is vote early, because once they track your ballot, it takes your name off of our canvassing list. So we know not to knock on your door, come to your home because you've already voted. We don't know who you voted for. None of that stuff is on there. But based off of the barcode, we can tell that you've already voted. So we won't be knocking on your door. So if you don't want us knocking like Jehovah's Witnesses, because we coming in that final stretch, just go ahead, vote early, and get us out the way. That's all. I just wanted to be sure to say that.
Did you knock on the door and say, do you know Kamala Harris? Let me talk to you. I'm coming in.
Yeah, you know what? One of the things that frustrated me a little bit about it is you'll just ask them about Kamala Harris, what they think about, her candidacy. Do they have any questions? And when they say, well, I don't really know her like that. She wasn't really making a stamp or anything when she was VP, so I don't know her. And then you'll ask them, oh, okay, well, have you watched any of her rallies? No. Have you gone to any of her rallies? No. Have you been to KamalaHarris.com? No. Have you been to the DNC website because her agenda is on there also? No. It's like, okay, well, how did you think you were going to learn about her?
Yeah.
Like, do you think that Kamala Harris or Tim Walz was personally going to come over here and knock on your door and say, hey, how's it going? It's so they wouldn't, people say that they don't know her like that.
I would ask them, who do
They're
you know
not
about
trying to
then?
know.
Do you know
Yeah,
about
they're not,
do you know
yeah, they
about
don't know her, but they're
Donald
not trying
Trump?
to know.
Do you know
Yeah,
about Donald Trump? What do you know about Donald Trump? You know,
yeah.
this apathy thing has always been a problem. I think it's getting better now with all this turmoil that's going on. I want to bring this up because I know you want to bring something else up. But since we're talking about the canvassing and all the stuff that's going on, I just got back from Georgia. I was there for about 4 days. I came back for a few days, and then I was there for another 4 days. And while I was in Georgia, um, there's been a lot of concerns about Georgia with all the fucking around they've been doing with the elections and all this stuff. And people have to understand, just because people say it doesn't mean they can actually do it. Because what they were talking about doing is absolutely crazy. But since I was there, we had early voting in Georgia, and it was double, almost triple what it normally is, which
Yeah.
tells you something. I mean, these people in Georgia are getting out to vote, a state that some people think is red. When you get that kind of turnout, you can know that that's Democrats going out and doing that. That coupled with the fact this whole hand count thing, they wanted to slow things down by forcing a hand count. Well, the judge said, yeah, we're not doing that. And secondly, there was a situation where the legislature was going to not certify the election. Yet another judge said, no, motherfuckers, you're certifying it. It's a constitutional requirement. You will be doing it. So I was there while all this was going on. I'm not saying I had anything to do with it, but I'm not saying I don't.
Yeah,
But
they
it's
were
good to
not.
see. It's got to make people feel better.
Yeah, Kamala Harris, in addition to like a huge ground game, I learned like so much from the field offices and the people around. And I got to meet people that I never thought I would, like Mark Cuban and, just people. But they understand that Donald Trump and his cohorts are not necessarily trying to win the election, but they're putting more emphasis on trying to steal the election.
Discredit
And
it anyway.
yes, and Mark Goliath, if you know who
Yep.
he is heading up the legal defenses that we have on our roster. And currently, there are 62, don't quote me on that, but it's 60 something lawsuits that he's fighting in court right now. And when
Right.
I say lawsuits, I mean like voter suppression lawsuits. There are states who have programs where you can challenge your neighbor's voter registration. And then that person will have to go and prove that they are eligible to vote. So he was the one that was like intricate and making sure that they did not get away with this hand count crap that they're trying to do in Georgia. And then he was also intricate in Nebraska. So I don't know if you saw that today or not, but Nebraska came down with a decision: as long as you have served your time, you can vote. And that has to take effect immediately. So I don't know
Wow.
how many Nebraskans you have out there, but if they are out there and you know someone who had a record and they're not voting because they think that they have a record and they don't qualify or they're not eligible to, yes, they can. And they can as of October 16th, 2024. They can. And in Nebraska, they do have online registration. So you don't have to leave your house and go register or any of that. All you have to do is log on and then you'll be able to vote. So yeah,
Now,
so he handling business behind the scenes because these people have nothing to stand on.
right.
There are laws in place to protect voters. What they're trying to do is skirt the law by putting in unrealistic rules. So
Right.
it's, oh, we're not breaking the law. That's a new rule that we created. Well, you can't create a rule if it's voter suppression and it goes against your voter laws. So a rule doesn't trump the laws. they think that they can do this. They go out there and they say it, but there's a purpose behind it because they think that they can scare people into thinking that, oh, well, I can't register to vote because I have a record or whatever the hell crap it is. And that's going to keep people home. So we have to make sure that these people know, like, yes, you can vote. The stuff that they're saying, that's crap. It's not true. It's not real. But they're trying to suppress the vote as much as they can. And he is a powerhouse.
Yeah.
And he is, I'm about democracy, but he is like next level. He
Right.
is just not going to sit back and let them steal this election. And I think one of the smartest things Kamala Harris did, other than picking Tim Walz, was putting Mark Elias at the head of this. So,
Right. Well, this is something that people always came to me and said, well, he'll just cheat. Did you hear what's going on in Georgia? Did you hear what's going on here? And I always explain to them that everything they're doing, they tried before. So we have
yeah,
the advantage that we know what they're going to try to do, so we can plan to fight against it. But more importantly than that, along with Mark Elias, Kamala Harris's campaign has put together like 10 times as many lawyers as they had
yes,
in the last campaign. So they know what's coming. And
hmm
people think that just because they say, oh, we're going to make them do a hand count, that that's a done deal and that's what's going to happen. Well, legally or constitutionally, that doesn't work out.
yeah,
Or the not certifying election. You're required to certify election. So they can say this and everybody gets scared. But this perfectly illustrates, Georgia perfectly illustrates this thing that everybody was worried about. And I told you not to be worried because there's ways to fight against it. And they're fighting it at every angle. Mark Elias, all the other lawyers, they took all this bullshit that everybody was worried about. They exposed it for bullshit. They took it up the legal channels, and it's not going to happen because it was bullshit in the first point. So when you're worried about them cheating or rigging things, it's okay to be concerned about it, but don't worry about it because most of it is bullshit. And there's a lot of lawyers out there exposing it and ending it.
yeah. I would say pay attention, be aware of what's going on around you, and then educate yourself on the laws. For me, I read Democracy Docket a lot. And then if he has an interview with BTC on YouTube or something, I'll be sure to check out those episodes.
Right.
But there's also a Democracy Docket YouTube channel now. And you can actually go on there, watch his videos. He does provide updates if you're not a nerd like me and you want to read everything. And you can keep yourself aware of what's going on. I was aware that they were in Florida, but then the DOJ stepped in. I don't know if you knew this, but Ron DeSantis sent a cease and desist letter to the television outlets out there because there was a woman who made an ad about having cancer and then that 6-week abortion ban in Florida. So
Right.
they made a campaign ad, and the campaign ad was this woman telling her story. And so Ron DeSantis tried to threaten this woman and the news outlets that they cannot run that ad. So Mark Elias and his team was out there, but then the next thing I know, the DOJ has stepped into it. So what I think is happening, and I don't know this for sure, but if it's something if it's that far out of pocket and you have someone as dirty and as devious as Ron DeSantis, there is a team of attorneys, including Mark Elias, who can bring this to the attention of the DOJ and then let them handle it. So I'm pretty sure that Ron DeSantis, little kitten heels, that he is not happy about this, but they are going to run that ad. And people do need to know what is on the ballot. The stuff that Ron DeSantis is doing in Florida is like absolutely mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
It's insane. But if you pay attention to Ron DeSantis, he really does try to be a mini Trump. So you see Trump sitting there, hey, this person needs their broadcasting license taken away. They need to take this off the air. You see Trump doing this stuff. And then you see Ron DeSantis trying to do it on a local level.
Right.
And it's just kind of like, I don't understand what people think that if Trump says and does something that they're in the clear to where they can say it and do it. First of all, broadcasting licenses is not up to the governor. So how
No,
are you? It's just threats, and
it's federal. It's
Yeah,
FCC, Federal Communications Commission.
yeah. And he's constantly threatening people. They're showing up at people's houses anytime that you sign a petition and that type of thing. So when people say, I do think that Florida could flip. And the reason that it could be is because people don't want to live under a dictatorship. But Florida is damn near there at this point. Anytime Ron DeSantis is rubbed the wrong way, he is going to come out and try to silence somebody, pull somebody's card, or pull somebody's job. He always trying to do that. And I think that Florida doesn't want to live under a dictatorship just like the rest of us does it.
Well,
And he tries to,
we have the same situation in Texas with Ken
yes,
Paxton, the Attorney General, and the courts are shutting his ass down too, going into people's houses, dragging people out of houses. The court said, "Fuck you, you can't do that. Stop that shit." I think
yes.
Paxton is fucking around and finding out, much like Ron DeSantis is.
Yeah, and guess what he did?
But
Because since he tried to do that and pull that ad, you should see how many views that ad has on YouTube now.
yeah, yeah, I can imagine.
Just thank you for getting the whole world, including your state, to see this ad. Where probably, a lot of people would have seen it, but it would have just been a local thing. Thanks for bringing attention to this dingbat. I just think.
Well, it's interesting. You can sense a tide turning in Florida, and I've said this before. If Florida turns blue, nothing
Yeah,
else really matters. Donald Trump cannot win. He cannot win without Florida. And
yeah,
people have just suggested that it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to go red. And I don't know that it is. But when I keep seeing videos of miles long marches, campaign marches for Kamala Harris in the fucking villages, people
right.
55 and older, you, you know, you know what I think? This is the one thing about Kamala and Donald Trump. Donald Trump is running the absolute worst campaign in history. He's going to New York. He can't win. He's going to Colorado. He can't win. He's going to California. He can't win there. And we're 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks away from the election. Kamala
Mhm.
is hitting them at every point. The elderly folks that might vote for Donald Trump, she comes out and says, listen, we need to expand Medicare to
Yeah,
allow people to stay in the home, protect their dignity. Uh,
yeah,
and we're going to protect Medicare, and we're going to protect Social Security. Well, that hits right at the heart of those people in the villages, the elderly folks. Um, and
some
Donald
people
Trump's got
don't
nothing
know.
to say.
Some people don't know with Florida, his assault on women has been there.
Yeah,
I don't understand why he attacked more like women and older women, seniors,
yeah,
but it's pretty much impossible in Florida right now for a woman to get alimony. So, if you're married to a man for like 30 years and then all of a sudden they leave you with secretary or something like that, you've been out of the workforce. So you're
yeah,
entitled to get your alimony, right?
right.
Well, in Florida, he put all these roadblocks up. So these women are not entitled to certain benefits that they used to be entitled to. Part of your 401k and this, like, to help these women survive. He stripped them of that. And the reason that he did that is he had a meeting with these wealthy donors who were tired of paying their ex-wives. And, DeSantis is like, hey, put some money in my pocket. I got you. So he's been assaulting these women. And then when you look at the villages and you see like these older women, that's like, heck no, we're not going back. That is the reason why DeSantis has been doing this. He just ramped it up during the election season and he's trying to take it further and further and further. But you can only push women so far. And then when I look at the villages, I'm not saying this in a derogatory way at this point, but you're looking at a group of like white Karens.
Yeah.
You better sit here and take away their alimony. Like, have you ever seen what one Karen can do? Just imagine a whole community of these heifers just running around like, no, this is not going to happen. The way that they were able to like mobilize and get people on their side and getting people out to vote, it's a direct response to DeSantis's heavy-handedness that he has in that state. What he has against women when he has a family and a wife and a daughter is beyond me. It's insane that he would act like that. But
I, th-
they caught his crap.
I think one of the reasons Florida can turn blue, well, there's a number of reasons, but Florida's a beautiful state. People, as tourists go down there, they enjoy the beaches and all the beautiful places down there. and I don't want to sound like Donald Trump talking about Minneapolis being this burning city because it's bullshit. I live here. It's beautiful here and it's fine and it's calm. But in terms of socially speaking, Donald Trump, the Republicans, and Ron DeSantis have really turned Florida into kind of a hellscape. I mean, from
Yeah,
every aspect. We've got overturning Roe v. Wade and essentially abolishing abortion in in Florida. It's a 6 week ban, which is like a fully abolishing abortion. But then you've got insurance prices that nobody can afford because they're as expensive or more expensive than the mortgages on their house. There's no reason to go there and live in such a costly way. And then you've got the immigrants that have been kicked out or marginalized, and they got nobody to do the work that needs to be done there, especially after a hurricane. Then the
yeah,
hurricane comes through, and they don't care about climate change. So you got hurricanes hitting the same place time after time. And we were talking about this once before. There are going to be cities in South Florida that are going to get tired of rebuilding, and then people will just fucking move. These beautiful cities can't be maintained because nobody can afford the insurance. Though and what they're doing to the older folks and to the women, it's really can't be a pleasant place to live. And I know I don't live there, so maybe I'm speaking out of turn. But when I hear about all these things going on, who the fuck would want to live there?
not only that, but Florida has a travel warning when you go
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
They have a travel warning for LGBTQ plus community. They have a travel warning for minorities. Um, Florida, they have competitive universities out there. But you take away, you start banning books, and then you take away certain subjects in school that you don't feel that, because keep in mind, when you go to college, you're an adult. You're
yeah,
still a young adult. You still may need, your parents to handhold you. The training wheels are starting to come off a little bit. But at the same time, you're still an adult. You should be able to study in the field that you want to study with. And then when you graduate, be competitive in that field. How
right,
could you go to Florida for any kind of medical courses, especially if you want to be an OBGYN?
right.
And there's certain courses that is banned in the state of Florida. If you are an OB, you do need to know how to perform an abortion because there's so many different things that go on. But you remove that from the curriculum. How many people aspiring to be an OB is going to choose Florida?
Right.
If you have your minority athletes that's like, oh, we can't go to this school because we don't have representation because DeSantis, for some reason, doesn't want those minority who rakes in millions for these universities playing sports. And these
Yeah.
athletes like, okay, yeah, wait till my semester up. I'm going to start auditioning and going to some of these other universities that is not hostile to me. That's not hostile to where my family can't come and visit me. So
Why would a blue chip wide receiver who has all kinds of options throughout the country,
yeah,
from Notre Dame to USC to whatever,
yeah,
to Wisconsin to Ohio State, why would they go to Florida State or the
yeah,
University of Florida? An
yeah,
African American blue chip athlete would be crazy to go down there. I don't know why
yeah.
they would.
Yeah. I mean, it's the way that he has turned the university's programs upside down is insane. And I've said this to like a lot of the people who are voting for him, like his donors and rich people with that mindset. Once they start to see that these athletes are not going to that state, and then also it's costing them money. And then in addition, I know this is so crazy. I'm not into sports, but what my brother says, when their teams is not competitive and they start losing,
Yeah,
these rich people are going to not. They're going to be upset. They're not going to be happy with DeSantis. They're going to
absolutely.
be somebody to blame. So what he is doing is just, I don't know. I just look at him just like a really tragic character because I know his background and there's something just wrong with him.
Well,
He has some issues. I don't know if it's a complex or what. Like, I know he wear the lifts in his shoes and all that stuff, but he's just projecting that out on everybody else. And nobody wants that projectile on them. And
Well,
it's sad to see what he's doing, especially with the LGBTQ plus community,
the
removing
the
climate change
the
from curricula.
Republicans are essentially destroying what was once thought of as kind of paradise. And like you
Yeah.
say, when tourism tails off, when athletes don't go, when businesses can't, I mean, you can't start a new business in Florida if you happen to employ African American or gay people. You can't because nobody's going to want to work for you or play for you. So um, that's why I'm thinking that the people, I've always said that people don't change unless it bites them in the ass. And there's a lot of people in Florida getting bit in the ass right now from 50% of the population, meaning the women, the men who support those women, business, people who want to own homes and can't afford it anymore. A lot of people are getting their asses kicked. And to me, that is fertile ground for a switch to blue. Because what else are they going to do?
Yeah, I don't, as somebody who's like a firm believer in education for the children in my life, I couldn't, when I saw like DeSantis was having parents sign a permission slip for Black History Month,
Right.
I just, at that point, I was just like, oh, he don't want us there.
No.
But because Black history is American history, whether he wants to acknowledge it or not. And then you see that they are showing PragerU videos in schools.
Oh, what a joke. That's
It's
fucking
sick that they do
ridiculous.
that. Yeah, it's sick that they do that. But this is what he is doing. So I don't even like being a retirement community is one thing, but being welcoming to young people and young families, that's something that is not. And I don't understand. I don't know how families feel comfortable with the quality of education that their children are going to get in Florida. I don't know. I feel sorry for the families that have to go through that. But at the same time, I respect them because they're willing to stay there. They're willing to go to the board meetings and speak up and voice out against what he is doing. And they're willing to stay in the state of Florida and fight for it. And I do think at the end of the day, those are the people that's going to win out in the end. But it's going to suck until they get there. It's
Right.
going to, and their children are going to suffer in the meantime.
Right. People are talking about Pennsylvania being the most important state in this election, and I don't know if that's true or not, but it is an important state. We had TJ on, who lives in Pennsylvania. He feels pretty strongly about Pennsylvania going blue. You spent
Yeah.
some time there canvassing, right? And you spent a fair amount of time in Pennsylvania. What's your sense about what you heard and saw in Pennsylvania?
It was pretty positive. Even the people that was like, I had a feeling like sometimes they're like not wanting to say, I don't understand. It's about Trump voters where they want to vote in private, but they don't want to tell nobody they voted for him. Like if you have to sneak and vote for somebody, you should probably rethink that vote.
Yeah.
But they were pretty open and receptive to Kamala Harris. And then a lot of them were just like, okay, we're over this. We don't want, or they have like the foresight to like look out and see what happens in these states where they do get these bans and they do have all of this crazy crap going on. And they don't want that for their state. So it's kind of like, hey, let's just cut it off at the knees before it comes here.
Right.
But they are motivated for Kamala Harris. They are motivated for Tim Walz more than Kamala Harris in the state of Pennsylvania, from what I can see.
Really?
A lot of the doors that I knocked on, they were like receptive, they were positive, and then they were open to information too. Like you said, oh, have you seen this? And they're like, no, I haven't seen that. And then you just pull it up on your phone real quick and show it to them, and they're like, oh God, I didn't know that. And in Pennsylvania, they were more because they always try to say, hey, get a commitment before you leave. So you'll say, so I got your vote. You committed to Kamala? They're like, yeah, I got you. I do feel that vibe in there, but I also think that it's from Shapiro too. Like
Yeah.
they
I think he
look up to
plays a big
him.
role.
Yeah, they look up to him, they respect him, and they trust him as well. And then
Yeah.
you get that sense of that. So his word and the things that he does, it really has an impact on those people that's there. It's just unfortunate that sometimes where they get their news from is not factual information at all. But Shapiro has a huge footprint in Pennsylvania. And especially the way he stands up for women's rights, they like that too. So
Yeah.
I can see Pennsylvania going red for Kamala Harris. I think the biggest thing for me about Pennsylvania was stressing those down ballot votes because
Right.
a lot of those people was like, oh, yeah, we're not going to vote for Trump. But then they leave off the down ballot votes where they are not really familiar about the candidates. And then that's where you have to like point that information out to them. So it kind of seemed like Kamala Harris, Tim Walz is a lock. They really respect Shapiro. But then what about these down ballot races? So in Pennsylvania, that's where the ground needed to be made up at. Like, if you want them to make a difference, you have to vote down ballot because Kamala Harris needs both chambers in order to enact her agenda. In addition to that, codifying Roe, making sure that we have gay rights, trans rights, you have to vote down ballot. And for me in Pennsylvania, that was the focal point, is making sure that she got her back up.
I think most people believe that the Democrats will win the House pretty easily, maybe 20, 30, 40 seats. And if that
Yeah,
happens, that'll be awesome. A lot of people are worried about the Senate because of the way who's up for election and all that stuff. And I haven't been as concerned about it because I do think the Democrats will hold the majority and maybe even extend the majority that they currently have. Mainly because I'm seeing certain things. I'm curious to what you think, like in Texas with Ted Cruz, things not going well for him down there. Rick Scott in Florida. I mean, Jesus Christ, if you're going to vote for Kamala because of Roe v. Wade, why would you vote for Rick Scott? Yes, it's down ballot, but this guy's got more problems than you can possibly imagine. And there are other senators around the country. Tester in Montana, people say, well, it's so close. But these are fucking polls. And
yeah,
Tester, all you had to do was watch that debate with Tester and the clown he was running against. It's a no fucking brainer. Who do you vote for? The
yeah.
carpetbagger or the guy who's from the state that's been there for all his life? It's not a hard choice. And Montana, people from Montana aren't stupid.
Yeah, Tester seems like everybody is kind of like it's a 50-50 with
I
Tester.
don't think so.
Tester's like one of those people where it always seems like when I think of him, I think about the Rocky character. It was like he's getting beat up the whole 9 rounds, and then at the end he come out and he do that win. It's like
Yeah.
he's done that twice already, and it's like, okay, can he do it a third time? I think he can. Looking at the debate, and then also he exposed him. This is a carpetbagger. You don't know nothing about that. I'm one of you. I'm the people. You know what I mean? And the
He's from
GOP,
Minnesota. The guy's from Minnesota, and he claims to be from a farm. He's in a suburb of Minnesota. He was never on a farm. He came from a rich family with a big yard, is what he fucking had.
yeah, but the GOP, they do that.
Yeah.
They did it with Dr. Oz. They did the same thing with the fool in Georgia. What was his name? The one talking about vampires and we have clean air and all that.
Herschel Walker.
Chris Walker, yeah, they constantly do that. Lauren Boebert just did it in Colorado. She just took a page out of their book, like, oh, it don't look good over here, so let me skirt on over here.
Yeah.
But they do that. They take, and part of the reason that they do that is because Trump has robbed them blind. The RNC sure is not helping the down ballots. So part of the way that they make up for that is they will find someone who can fund their own campaign. And it
Right.
doesn't matter what state they are in. It's just like, hey, we don't have to give them money for this race. Okay, well, let's just plant them in another state. Let them run that race and see if they can win on their own money. Mitch McConnell right now is sitting on, I think his war chest is like 400 and something, 460 something $1 million. And he is not giving a dime to Ted Cruz.
Right.
It's like holding a grudge. So if he doesn't like you, even though he's sitting on his war chest, you're not getting any of that money. You're not getting the support. You're not getting the funds that you need. And when it comes to the Republican Party, what else do you expect?
Well,
These
and
people are
Ted's
it's not about the party. It's about them and their personal grievances. And it's like they just have they don't have the capability of caring about other people, caring about something as a whole. You know what I mean? When I'm sitting there like Mitch McConnell is just sitting on his money, he's not helping nobody out. That's
what
insane.
Ted's freaking out. Ted's freaking out.
He should.
He got destroyed in that debate with Colin Allred, and he was
But Colin
smiling and
always
smirking.
said he was sitting in the closet.
Yeah, yeah. It was not pretty. But then Ted Cruz goes on Fox News, and I saw this fact, and I'm going, Jesus. That's desperation. But in a span of 45 seconds, Ted
Mhm.
Cruz begged for money. Go to my website, give me some money 6 times in 45 seconds.
Yeah,
Now, now I was talking to, who was that? I don't know who I was talking to. And I said, whenever you're trying to get a date or get a job, the last thing you want to do is appear to be desperate because you will most certainly not get the job or the date or anything else. And Ted is freaking out. He's like a scared little bunny rabbit, and he's just trying to do anything to win this thing. And I just don't think he will.
yeah. Ted Cruz at his big age, and I think this is like with the obstructionists as a whole. They feel like they can play games and vote against things that would benefit their constituents. And there's not going to be any repercussions for that at all
Yeah,
whatsoever.
yeah,
So when he is sitting, there's it's a bill. It's going to help your community. This is what your constituents want. But instead of listening to your constituents, making their lives better, doing something to actually improve their communities and your state as a whole, you're going to vote against it because you want to try to make the Democrats look bad.
right,
And I think that could have worked with old school Democrats, but they're not really playing that game anymore. They are very quick to point out when you vote against things that would serve your community. They're very quick to point that out. And they're not understanding that they can't just keep playing these games and then they're going to get that seat anyway, just because I don't know. There's no reason to vote for Ted Cruz at this point. He only cares
no,
about his podcast. The only time he's even like in his community and reaching out to them is when it's election year. And
yeah.
I think Texans know that. And I do believe that they're smarter than what Ted Cruz think that they are. And
I th-
I hope they don't vote for him again because the last thing we need to do is embolden Ted Cruz and his overhyped ego that he has.
yeah,
They need to make sure because he don't care.
he's a narcissist motherfucker too. That's the
Mhm.
one thing I'm noticing as I'm looking at this. I've always said that this election is going to be a turning point. I think this is the end of the Republican Party, and I think we're seeing a newer, different Democratic Party. The
Yeah.
Democrats have always been a certain way, but they were forced into this, and now they're fighting and they're pushing and they're trying to help the middle class, and that's working for them. I'm hoping that carries over after they win. But the Republican Party, I don't know what they're going to do. They can't continue the way they're going. MAGA is not going to do it for them. MAGA will still be around screaming and crying and stuff, but eventually they'll fade off and go back under their rocks. The Republicans really have nothing left. They got to come up with a whole new plan, a whole new party, a whole new platform. Well, they got to come up with a platform first before they come up with a new one. But it's really kind of a turning point in our politics because we've never seen this before where one party is just going to be wasted and the other party is going to come out stronger and it's going to be different than what we've normally seen. Hopefully that's a positive.
Yeah, I think that, well, I think true in both parties because we're all just people. So both parties always have like those kooks and those fringe people. They're always going to be there.
Yeah.
But what the Democrats are very good at is minimizing those type of people and keeping
Yeah.
them off to the side. I think what the Republican Party did was maybe like it's one of two different things. Either they just let Donald Trump just run roughshod and put these kooks in positions of power where they should not have been. But then I also think that as like a regular, like free thinking type of Republican who doesn't go along with this, that they thought that they could just kind of like sit in the backgrounds and let them do their thing where like they're hiding behind them. So
Right.
it's kind of like they will allow for Margie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert to, you know, put this crazy agenda up, let Mike Johnson run the show, and then they would just kind of like sit back and let it happen because they like what they're doing, but they know that it's toxic and they know better than to attach their name to it. But they
Right.
didn't understand just like how far that they would take it. You know what I mean? Like they didn't think that these people would take it as far as they have. So they thought that they could just kind of like sit back and let the crazy be the face of crazy or be crazy be the face of these unpopular policies and they wouldn't have to do or say anything about it. But they didn't understand that you don't let inmates run the asylum. It's
One
not.
of one of the huge factors in why I know the Democrats win and not Joe Biden, Kamala Harris wins and Donald Trump loses, it's always comes down to money, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm asking you this because you're working with the DNC of sorts with the canvassing and all of this stuff. But in 80 days, Kamala Harris raises 80, was it $80 billion? Is that right? 80 billion?
No, I think she's at 1 billion.
No, what was it? 80 days, 1 billion. Yes, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm getting screwed up here. I got,
80
uh,
billion.
80 billion. That would be good. But even 1 billion in 80 days is fucking amazing. No presidential candidate has ever
Mhm.
done that before. Donald Trump raised maybe a third of that in a longer period of time. And just based on that, I say, how can you say the polls are close if the fundraising is that far apart? I mean, it's ridiculous. Um, and we're seeing that the Republicans really don't have any money. Nothing's coming from the RNC. None of the down ballot people are getting any money. Mitch McConnell's holding money back. Donald Trump's not giving anybody anything. When you're on the ground, you're one of the people on the ground for the Democrats.
Yeah.
How are you seeing that with the amount of money that the Democrats have? They're obviously spreading it around quite a lot.
Yeah. We're not hurting, that's for sure. When we were in PA, they would do things like in New Jersey. Now, unlike Trump, our buses went two ways. So
Yeah,
they would literally like have buses going out to like New Jersey and in that area and bringing those people into PA, any like to canvas, to do the postcards, to phone bank, just like to come and get involved. So they wanted to make sure that they had plenty of people in place. Um, to support these down ballot races. Anything that they needed is kind of like it was a phone call away.
right,
And they would be sure to provide. It's kind of like whatever you need, I got you. The only thing I need you to do is go out there and make the case, stand on that, and everything else will fall into place. Like, don't worry about your field offices running or being staffed because we got that. Don't worry about your volunteers eating because we got that too. But when you look at the Trump campaign, it's the opposite. They're constantly getting the short end of the stick. Donald Trump shakes them down at every opportunity that he can. Calling the RNC is kind of like pointless.
right.
Uh, it, it's a huge difference because when I'm there, I feel comfortable. I feel wanted. And then we have all the resources and tools at our disposal that we need. You know what I mean? We even have like when you could register people electronically, we all have tablets. All we
Right,
have to do is go on the website. Like I'm standing right here right now. Go ahead, register yourself.
right,
Versus if you were in a Trump campaign, you're telling people where they need to go. Are you telling them to go on their phone and register? You're leaving it up to them to do the follow through. We're doing the follow through. We have our tablets. We just pull out our tablet. You can register right here. You don't have to do nothing else. Your mail-in ballot will come in the mail. Like we are doing the follow through for them. And when you think about it, if somebody tells you, yeah, I'm a register, you don't know if they're going to follow through or not.
right.
But we know that they follow through because they did it right in front of us. The Trump campaign, they don't even have that those tablets there to form basic follow through and make sure these people are registered. They don't do that. They don't have that. They don't have as many field offices as we have. In Nevada, we got like what 15 of them now, field offices.
Yeah.
We don't even have that.
Well,
They don't have
people
resources for that.
when it comes to presidential campaigns, people always talk about the ground game. And the ground game is basically what you're doing and canvassing and going out, calling phone banks and all that sort of stuff. I'm venturing to guess that Kamala Harris, who's running a wonderful campaign, has probably the biggest ground game we've seen for a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
And conversely, Donald Trump virtually has no ground game or not much of one. And that's a
Mhm.
big discrepancy going into this election. That may be enough to lose an election if you've got no ground game and nobody working the phones and knocking on doors as much as what the Democrats are doing. That's got to play a huge role come November 5th.
Yeah, and just I just thought about this when I was thinking about Mark Cuban. Is look at our branding, look at our events.
Yeah,
So when we have events for like small business owners in the community, and we have an event for them where they can come in and talk to Mark Cuban, and they're surrounded by like-minded people. They are like having a good time, but at the same time, they're being educated.
right,
So it's like with Trump, he has like these $100,000, $200,000 a plate fundraisers, and there's only his wealthy donors that are there. When we have our events, you're not paying to come to our event. You're getting your invite. You're going to come in here. We're going to educate you. It's going to be all good. Maybe have a drink or two. And then you don't have to pay. And these are small business owners. These are people in the community. Sometimes these are people that are struggling. So you may have an event for a Black man in the community. They can come. They don't have to pay for that. You can have an event for women in the community. You can come. You don't have to pay for that. It's very open and it's very welcoming to do that. Versus with the Trump campaign, the only way you get into one of his events is if you pay for it. If you
right,
have $100,000 a pop, or maybe $500,000 for a couple, or whatever crap it is that he's charging,
right,
and then you're cutting off everybody else. You're not talking to the rest of the community, and the community is not made up of wealthy donors. You have to meet everybody, but they don't even have a space where they can come and have those conversations. They don't even have the name recognition. You know what I
right.
mean? Like Kid Rock is going to have an event and attract who? That's not going to happen. You know what I mean? And you can see where we have like Obama, who's out there stumping right now. Clinton is out there stumping right now. There's so many people that's out there having events, talking to people, and is stumping for Kamala. Trump doesn't have that. And
No,
then when you're doing that stuff for Kamala, your event and everything, your building, your food, all of that stuff is paid for. They want people to come and have a good time and hear what it is that you have to say. Trump isn't that welcoming. He's
right.
just not.
No, he's definitely not. We're gonna wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast with Old Soul, but I don't want you to. I know there's safety issues, but we've got about 2.5 weeks left before the election. I have a feeling you're going to be continuing as part of that ground game. You're going to be traveling around the country doing stuff for the next couple of weeks.
Yes, I am getting ready to leave. The saddest part about leaving is Obama is going to be in Vegas on Saturday. So
Oh
for
wow!
Vegas listeners, you can go, but I won't be here to go. But it is what it is. I'll watch it on television.
Are you hitting
Oh,
multiple states or one state over the next 2 weeks or what?
yeah. So I'm going to this one, and then I'll play it by ear after that. But this one is I wouldn't pass up on an Obama event if it wasn't
Important.
important. So last minute stuff happens, so I'm gonna go. We didn't talk about the Hispanic town hall,
Go
and
ahead.
I just want to say to the Hispanic community that that man is so disrespectful.
You-
Um, in the audience,
You're talking
asking
about a Univision, or right?
uh,
Yeah, go
um,
ahead. Tell us what you think about that.
I kind of don't know what to say, but at the same time, when Donald Trump calls them rapists, murderers, animals, and all that stuff that he says, he behaved like that during that town hall. There was a man with a microphone, and he said that these hands like picks broccoli, like these are my working hands. And Trump turned around and talked about the horrible people that's coming into our country.
Wow. He
There
keeps
was
doing
another,
that. He talks shit
yeah,
about Detroit. He talks shit about Milwaukee. He talks shit about women. And he goes in front of Hispanic people and starts talking about the rapists and murderers coming across the border. This fucker
yeah,
can't save his life for anything.
yeah. There was another man that asked him about the Haitian immigrants. And for me, I was happy that he asked that question because he got it. Like, this is not a Hispanic community, this is a Haitian community, but we're all immigrants and we need to stand together. So I was happy that he asked the question, but it wasn't even about his community that he asked. And he told Trump, like, what you're saying has been debunked, and asking him if, why is he still saying that? And Trump said, I'm gonna like basically go to Ohio and figure this out and like get an answer to you or whatever way that he spent it. But you were just in Ohio.
Yeah.
So you know this is not true. As a matter of fact, when you were out in Ohio, the reason for going there was demonizing these people all over again. That was your purpose of going there. But he tried to spin it. The people in the audience were gracious, more gracious than I was. And they sat there and they listened to him be stubborn, old, and racist. And they just sat there and they let him spew his crap. It was just the most, outside of disrespecting the women, that was even worse. That was even worse.
Yeah.
To sit there in front of these people's faces and do that and say the things that you say out on the road. I was wondering to myself, like, is he demented? Is he not aware of where he's at? Or is he just ignorant and doesn't understand that what he's saying is offensive? Or maybe Trump just has no F's to give at this point. And it could just be a combination of all of that.
I think
But
he's
the
ignorant and arrogant, and he said this stuff, and to prove he's right, he wants to do it in this situation because he thinks in his mind he can pull it off with his amazing verbal skills or oratory. It's
I
just
don't
it's just part of the psychosis that he has with his narcissism.
yeah, I don't even think that he tried. His body language, you know how when Kamala was there, that she was like actively listening. She was taking their questions and their concerns seriously. He didn't, he was the opposite of that.
Yeah.
His body language, like he was just standing there, he was kind of like sulking. His mouth was like turned up, like you know how a dead fish look, how their mouth was like that.
Well, he was
That's how
getting mad because he was being contradicted. That's what narcissists do.
yeah,
They get mad when they're contradicted, no matter who does it.
yeah, but they weren't rude. They was
Doesn't
just asking
matter.
them a question.
But
he,
he's not good with being fact checked. Remember that.
he could have lied.
Well,
He
I'm
could have
sure he
lied.
did. I'm sure he did.
Just
Uh,
said, yeah, he lied about Ohio, but then he just sat there and stuck to his racist talking points, which was just so disgusting that he did that.
and this is why
Um,
he's going to lose hugely.
yeah, these people are human. They work very, very hard. They deserve a pathway to citizenship, and they don't need to be told repeatedly and to their faces that the people that's coming over here is like gang members. And
Yeah.
he even said that they're being released from jails and prisons
Yeah. It's
to
ridiculous.
faces.
I mean, it's so stupid. I just can't imagine anybody buys into that bullshit. Well,
I
old
never
soul,
seen anything like it.
I never have either, and hopefully we never will again once this is all over. Old soul, thanks for coming by. I know you're busy as shit. You got all kinds of things going on. You make me feel bad because I'm not nearly that busy, but I'm old, so I'm slower. Um,
You can
but
come help these girls with their homework tomorrow.
I don't know that I'd
I
be
can
any
need help
value
with
to him.
homework. I'm like, wait till my daughter get here. I'll call a wild child or something, but I don't know what this new math is. I
Yeah.
can't do that.
Yeah, no shit, no shit. Well, old soul, thank you very much. Keep sending me the text so I know where you're at and what you're doing and that you're okay. And we of course will connect up next week as well.
Yeah, yeah, we
All
can
right.
definitely do that. Thanks, guys, for listening.
Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to listen. Hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.